The roar of the crowd hit me like a sucker punch, a wall of sound that drowned out the bitter echo of my own failures on fields just like this one. I hadn't set foot in a stadium since high school, when a torn ACL and a coach's cruel whisper, "You're done, kid, pack it up," shattered my dreams of gridiron glory, leaving me with nothing but a limp and a lifetime supply of resentment. But there I was, squeezed into the bleachers at my little brother Tommy's first college game, the crisp autumn air of an arbor slicing through my jacket, when the quarterback dropped back, scanned the field like a hawk, and unleashed a spiral that sailed straight into chaos. Right into the end zone, where Tommy snagged it for the winning touchdown, and in that frozen heartbeat, our eyes met across the turf. His fierce and alive under the floodlights, pulling me under like a riptide I never saw coming. I remember the exact second it started, that electric snag in my chest, because the world tilted just a fraction, the cheers blurring into white noise as he, Jax Harlan, the golden boy of Michigan State, all broad shoulders and easy swagger, jogged off the field, helmet tucked under his arm, sweat gleaming on his skin like he'd been forged in the sun. Tommy was bounding up the stands, all gangly limbs and breathless grins, slapping my back hard enough to jolt me from the trance. "Did you see that, Alex? Holy shit, we crushed him. You're coming to the after party, right? Coach said the whole team's invited. Jax even asked about you specifically, man. Said you looked like you could use a beer after sitting through all that yelling." I forced a laugh, rubbing the scar on my knee like it was a talisman against the pull I felt, that dangerous curiosity flickering to life after years of deliberate numbness. Sports had been my poison, the thing that chewed me up and spat me out at 17, turning every Saturday into a reminder of what I'd lost. I'd buried it deep, swapped cleats for coffee shop shifts in our sleepy Detroit suburb, dated girls I half-liked to keep mom off my back, and told myself I was fine, really, with the quiet life of someone who'd learned to sidestep the spotlight. But Jax? He was the opposite. The kid who'd grown up on the same muddy lots as me, now a junior phenom with scouts buzzing like flies and a highlight reel that made ESPN salivate. And yeah, Tommy had mentioned him in passing, how Jax had taken the scrawny freshman under his wing during summer drills. But seeing him up close, that mop of dark hair tousled just so, those hazel eyes scanning the crowd with a mix of triumph and something haunted, it stirred a hunger I hadn't named since the locker room whispers back in high school, the ones that made my pulse race for reasons I never dared unpack. The after-party was at some off-campus house on the edge of East Lansing, the kind of sprawling Victorian that screamed, frat adjacent, with its peeling paint and backyard strung with fairy lights that did nothing to hide the chaos inside. Music thumped from speakers jury-rigged to a porch railing, bass vibrating through the soles of my boots as Tommy dragged me through the door, already hollering for his lineman buddies. Bodies pressed in from all sides, cheerleaders in crop tops, underclassmen chugging from red Solo cups, the air thick with the tang of cheap beer and victory sweat. I hung back by the kitchen counter, nursing a lukewarm IPA, watching the room like an anthropologist studying a foreign tribe. That's when Jax found me, weaving through the throng with that quarterback's grace, a fresh bottle in one hand and a smile that hit like a blindside tackle. "Alex, right? Tommy's big bro. The one who bailed on the family legacy." His voice was low, teasing, with that Midwestern drawl that softened the edges, like honey over gravel. Up close, he smelled like grass and Gatorade, his Spartans jersey clinging in ways that made my throat dry. I nodded, muttering something about work keeping me chained to the city. But he leaned in, elbows on the counter, close enough that I could see the faint scar above his lip from some long-ago scrum. "Nah, man, Tommy says you were a beast back in the day. What happened? ACL? That's bullshit, happens to the best. But you're here now. That's gotta count for something." His eyes held mine, not pitying, but probing, like he saw the ghost of that kid I used to be and wasn't scared off by the wreckage. We talked for hours, or what felt like it in the haze of laughter and clinking bottles. He grilled me on Detroit life, the auto plant ghosts haunting our streets, the way Motown beats still pulsed through dive bars on Woodward Avenue, and I found myself opening up, words spilling like they'd been damned too long. Jax listened, really listened, his knee brushing mine under the counter in what could have been accident but lingered just a beat too long. He shared bits of his own armor cracks, the pressure from his old man, a former linebacker's ghost who called from Texas every Sunday to dissect game tape like it was scripture. The scouts who treated him like livestock, measuring his arm strength against his marketability. "It's all smoke and mirrors, Alex," he said, voice dropping as the party thinned around us. "One bad snap and poof, you're yesterday's news. Makes you wonder what's real." Our fingers grazed when he passed me another beer, and in that spark, I felt it. The unspoken current, the pull toward something forbidden in this straight-laced world of turf and tackles. By midnight, the house had emptied to stragglers, and Tommy was passed out on a sagging couch, one arm flung over a pillow like he'd conquered the world. Jax clapped my shoulder, his hand warm and steady. "Walk with me? Fresh air'll clear the cobwebs." We stumbled out into the crisp night, stars pricking the velvet sky over cornfields that stretched like forgotten promises. The path wound along a cracked sidewalk, past lampposts flickering like hesitant confessions, and he bumped my arm with his, playful at first, then quieter. "You know, I spotted you in the stands during warm-ups. Looked like you were a million miles away. But then Tommy scores and bam, your face lit up. Like you remembered why you loved it once." I swallowed hard, the words sticking. Loved it? More like it loved breaking me. He stopped under a canopy of oaks, leaves rustling like whispers, and turned to me, his silhouette sharp against the moonlight. "Not everything breaks you, Alex. Some things, they rebuild." That night we didn't kiss. God, no, not with the weight of eyes that might still be watching. But we stood there, shoulders touching, breathing in sync as the world narrowed to the space between us. It was the first time in years I'd felt seen, not as the dropout brother or the barista scraping by, but as Alex. Flawed, fierce, and maybe, just maybe, worth the risk. As we parted at my rental car, his hand lingered on the doorframe, thumb tracing the seam like a secret Morse code. "Come back for the next game? Tommy'd kill me if I didn't ask. But I'd miss you if you didn't." I drove home with the windows down, wind whipping through like absolution, replaying his voice until dawn crept over the skyline. Little did I know, that pull was just the hook, reeling me into depths where love and loyalty would tangle like downed wires, sparking a fire that could warm or incinerate us both. The weeks blurred after that, a fever dream of texts lighting up my phone at odd hours, Jax firing off memes about botched plays or grainy photos of empty stadiums at dusk, captions like, "Wish you were here to make sense of the silence." I'd reply from behind the espresso machine at Brew Haven, my fingers fumbling over the screen, heart hammering as if coach were barking drills in my ear. Tommy, oblivious and buzzing from his breakout game, kept the invites rolling. "Jax says hi. Bro dude's got your number on speed dial or something." Weird, right? Not weird, I wanted to say. Not when those messages evolved from banter to bare-bones honesty. Like the one at 2 a.m. after a road loss. "Fumbled the handoff tonight. Dad's gonna ream me tomorrow. Ever feel like you're playing for ghosts?" I'd stare at the ceiling of my one-bedroom above the shop, the city hum a distant lullaby, and type back truths I'd buried every damn day. "But you're more than their scorecard, Jax. You're the guy who sees the field clear when no one else can." By the time rivalry week rolled around, State versus Michigan, the old in-state blood feud that turned brothers into strangers, I'd cleared my schedule, called in favors for coverage at work, even splurged on a decent hotel in Lansing so I wouldn't crash on Tommy's dorm floor like some broke relation. Mom raised an eyebrow over FaceTime, her voice laced with that familiar worry. "Alexander, honey, you're driving 3 hours for a football game? After all this time?" I mumbled about family support, but it was Jax's voice in my head, his casual, "Can't wait to spot you in green and white. Don't chicken out on me." The big house in Ann Arbor was a coliseum reborn. 100,000 souls packed in under a sky bruised with October clouds, the air electric with chants and the sharp crack of shoulder pads. I found my seat high in the alumni section, wedged between tailgaters in maize and blue face paint, the scent of grilled brats and face paint mingling with the undercurrent of desperation that always hung over these matchups. The game was a slaughter from kickoff, State's defense swarming like angry hornets, Jax threading needles through the chaos with throws that hummed like rifle shots. Tommy got his carries, bulldozing for yards that had the crowd on its feet, but it was Jax who owned the narrative, scrambling out of sacks with that predator's instinct, his jersey a beacon under the lights. Halftime hit with us up 21-7, and I slipped down to the tunnel level, flashing my guest pass like it was contraband. He was there, guzzling water by the water cooler, towel draped over his neck, when he saw me and broke into that grin that could melt goalposts. "You made it. Knew you would." No preamble. He pulled me into a quick bro hug, the kind that lingered in football circles, but his hand pressed firm against my back, fingers splaying just enough to send heat racing up my spine. We talked strategy in hushed tones, him mapping plays on a napkin like it was hieroglyphs, me nodding along, soaking in the way his passion lit him from within. "This one's for keeps, Alex. Beat these Wolverines, and it's like flipping off every doubt that ever dogged me." His eyes, flecked with gold in the harsh fluorescence, held a vulnerability that mirrored my own, the fear of falling short, of being exposed. As the second half whistle blew, he clapped my shoulder and jogged out, but not before whispering, "Watch for the flea flicker. It's all for you." The play came late in the fourth, score knotted at 28, the stadium a cauldron of noise. Jax faked the handoff to Tommy, then lateral to the wideout who lobbed it back. A trick play straight out of glory days, and Jax hauled it in himself, diving across the pylon for 6. The eruption was seismic, but in the stands, it was just me, chest tight, whispering his name like a prayer. Post-game, the locker room buzz was euphoric, steam curling from showers as teammates hooped and doused each other with Gatorade. Tommy bear hugged me first, reeking of turf and triumph. "Alex, you saw that lateral? Jax called it for me. Said it was brother approved." I laughed, ruffling his damp hair, but my eyes sought Jax across the tiled expanse. He was cornered by reporters, mic in face, spinning sound bites about team chemistry. But when he broke free, he made a beeline, slinging his duffel over one shoulder. "Hotel bar? My treat. Debrief mandatory." The place was a dive off State Street, all dark wood and neon signs flickering "Go Green." Half empty on a Sunday night, we claimed a booth in the back, burgers arriving greasy and glorious, and the conversation flowed like the amber ale between us. Stories of high school hijinks, the time Jax snuck out to watch the Lions lose in the snow, how I'd once dreamed of suiting up for state myself before the injury rewrote the script. As the bartender called last call, the bar's hum faded to a murmur, and Jax leaned across the table, his voice a rumble. "Being around you is like catching my breath after a sprint. Real, you know? No plays, no crowds." My pulse thundered, the booth suddenly too small, and I reached out, my hand covering his on the scarred tabletop. His fingers curled back, warm and sure, and in that touch, the dam cracked. "Jax, But he shook his head, glancing at the door where a couple of fans lingered, oblivious. "Not here. Not yet. But soon, Alex. I promise." We parted with a fist bump for the cameras in our heads, but in the parking lot, under the sodium glow of street lamps, he pulled me close for a hug that wasn't, his lips brushing my temple in a ghost of a kiss. Driving back to Detroit that night, windows fogged with my ragged breaths, I felt the thrill of it all. The precipice we teetered on, love blooming in the shadows of stadium lights, fragile as a fresh playbook. It started small, those stolen moments stacking like kindling. A late-night drive to Lake Huron after a mid-season bye, windows down as Bruce Springsteen wailed about Thunder Roads, Jax's hand finding mine on the gearshift when the dashboard lights dimmed. We'd park on a gravel overlook, waves lapping the shore like hesitant confessions, and talk until the sky paled. About the closet he'd built brick by brick, the fear of scouts sniffing out distractions. The way his dad's Bible-thumping calls from Austin always circled back to legacy and real men. "It's like I'm living 2 games at once," he'd say, head on my shoulder, the salt air tangling his hair. "One for the roar, one for the quiet. You make the quiet worth it." I'd trace the veins on his forearm, calloused from endless reps, and murmur back about my own ghosts. The high school coach who'd outed a teammate with a sneer, the girls I dated to prove something to mirrors I avoided. In those hours, America felt vast and kind. its heartland's hiding spaces where two guys could breathe without the weight of expectation crushing down. But shadows crept in with November's chill, the playoff push turning Jax into a whirlwind of film sessions and media spots. Texts grew sporadic, laced with apologies. Sorry, babe. Interview ran long. Miss your voice, though. I'd pace my apartment, the radiator clanking like a metronome to my unease, telling myself it was the grind, not doubt. Tommy noticed, cornering me during Thanksgiving at Mom's, the turkey carcass picked clean on the Formica table. You and Jax. It's weird, man. He's all hyped about you 1 week, then radio silent. What's the deal? I shrugged it off, blaming schedules, but the seed took root. A quiet ache that bloomed when I scrolled Jax's Insta. Him arm in arm with a cheer captain at some booster gala. Her laugh frozen in pixels. Caption, team spirit, Spartan pride. My stomach twisted. Not jealousy, exactly, but the cold drip of reality. He was playing the part, the All-American poster boy, while I was the sideline secret. The breaking point came 2 weeks before the conference championship. A Friday night when I drove up unannounced, craving the anchor of his laugh after a double shift that left me bone-tired. His apartment was a Spartan shrine. Jerseys framed on walls, a mini fridge stocked with protein shakes, and he buzzed me up with a distracted, "Hey, doors open." Inside, the air was stale with takeout and tension. Jax paced the living room in sweats, phone glued to his ear, voice pitched low and urgent. "Yeah, Dad, I get it. Image matters. She's great, yeah. Keeps things normal." He froze when he saw me in the doorway, eyes widening like a deer in headlights, and ended the call with a clipped, "Talk later." The silence stretched, heavy as chainmail, until he crossed the room, pulling me into an embrace that smelled of regret. "Alex, shit. I didn't know you were coming. That was just Dad being Dad." We sank onto the couch, his head in my lap, and the truth unraveled in fits. The setup with Becca, the cheerleader, a PR thing, his agent cooked up to quash rumors after a teammate spotted us at that lakeside pull-off. "It's fake, I swear, dinners, photo ops, nothing more. But if it leaks now with the draft looming." His voice cracked, fingers twisting in my shirt. I stroked his hair, murmuring assurances, but inside, the betrayal stung like turf burn. Not the lie to the world, but the one to us, the erasure of what we'd built in whispers. I get it. I lied, because what else could I say? That it gutted me to be the ghost in his narrative? We made love to words that night, not bodies. Him vowing to end the charade postseason. Me clinging to the dream of a future where we walked hand in hand under those same stadium arches. As he drifted off, breath evening against my chest, I stared at the ceiling fan's lazy spin, wondering if love was enough to outrun the playbook. The championship loomed like a guillotine, Vegas odds tilting toward state, the campus a frenzy of pep rallies and painted faces. I threw myself into support mode, manning the tailgate with Tommy, flipping burgers under a tent emblazoned with green banners, while fans mobbed Jax for selfies. He stole glances my way across the parking lot, a wink hidden in the chaos. But Becca was there too, perched on the hood of his truck in a cropped jersey, her arm looped possessively through his. Our eyes met over the grill smoke, and for a split second, hers narrowed, curious, maybe suspicious, before she flashed that megawatt smile for the cameras. Tommy nudged me, ketchup on his chin. "Jack's killing it, huh? But dude, you look wrecked. Still on about that ex from summer." I forced a grin, flipping a patty too hard so it splattered grease. "Nah, just the grind. Pass the buns." Game day dawned brittle cold, flurries dusting the field like confetti from a broken promise. The stadium pulsed with 80,000 voices, a sea of green clashing against the visitors' crimson. The national anthem's echo still hanging as Jax led the team out, helmet gleaming under the winter sun. I was in the family box now, courtesy of Tommy's invite, sandwiched between Mom, nervously twisting her scarf, and a booster who droned about nil deals. The kickoff sailed true, and from there it was war. Fumbles in the red zone, interceptions that twisted like knives, Jax taking hits that left him limping but launching bombs that kept state alive. Halftime tied at 14, and I excused myself to the concourse, sucking down hot chocolate to chase the chill in my veins. That's when my phone buzzed. Not Jax's usual pre-second half good luck emoji, but a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. About you and JB. Becca." My blood ran cold as I met her at a quiet gate, her ponytail swinging like a pendulum, eyes sharp as cleats. "I saw you too, at the lake that night. Don't play dumb." No accusation, just fact, delivered in the clipped tone of someone who'd navigated sorority politics and spotlight scrutiny. I braced for the storm, threats of exposure, demands to back off. But she sighed, leaning against the railing, the roar of the crowd a muffled tide below. "Look, I get it. He's magnetic. But this is suicide for him. Scouts are everywhere. His dad's got connections that could tank a career. I'm not the villain here. I'm the shield." Her words landed like body blows, each one underscoring the chasm. I was the risk, the variable he couldn't control. "End it, Alex, for his sake, or it'll end ugly." She walked away without a backward glance, leaving me adrift in the concourse din, the weight of her mercy heavier than malice. The second half was carnage, State surging ahead on a pick-six, only for the opponents to claw back with a field goal drive that had the box erupting in groans. Jax was everywhere, a blur of grit and grace, but I saw the toll. A stiff arm after every huddle, glances toward the press box that sought me out amid the sea of faces. With 2 minutes left, down by 3, he orchestrated the drive of his life, screen passes to Tommy, a bootleg keeper that shed 3 tacklers, culminating in a 42-yard rope to the corner where our freshman receiver hauled it down for the win. The final whistle blew, confetti cannons exploding like fireworks, and the field became a mosh pit of hugs and helmet smacks. I made my way down, weaving through jubilant strangers, until Jax broke free and crashed into me, lifting me off my feet in a bear hug that drew whoops from passers-by. "We did it," he gasped, face buried in my neck, voice thick with salt and sweat. "All of it for us." But as the adrenaline ebbed, Becca's warning echoed, a specter in the celebration. We slipped away to the underbelly of the stadium, a service corridor lined with humming vending machines, where he finally shattered. Dad called mid-game, saw the pics with Becca, loved it, said it's smart branding. "Alex, I won't do this anymore. After the draft, I'm out. Full out. With you." His kiss was desperate, tasting of Gatorade and goodbye to pretense, hands framing my face like I was the only play that mattered. I kissed back, pouring every unspoken fear into it, but pulled away with her words clawing at my throat. "Jax, it's not that simple. She knows. And if it blows up," he cupped my jaw, eyes fierce, "then we face it together. No more shields." In that dim-lit tunnel, with echoes of glory fading above, I chose belief, chose him, binding us in a vow as fragile as fresh snow. December barreled in like a freight train, the national spotlight swiveling to East Lansing with the ferocity of a playoff run. Jax was everywhere. Talk shows dissecting his clutch gene, billboards along I-96 hawking energy drinks with his chiseled mug, even a fluff piece in Sports Illustrated that painted him as the next great American quarterback. Humble roots, iron will, heart of gold. I watched from the sidelines of my life, clipping articles to a folder on my laptop, a secret scrapbook of the man who texted me sonnets at dawn. "Woke up to your voice in my head. Makes the chaos bearable." Our stolen weekends became lifelines. Me sneaking upstate to his off-season pad, a cabin his uncle owned on the Osable River, where we'd fish at dawn and forget the world over campfires that crackled like laughter. There, away from the gridiron glare, he was just Jax, the guy who burned pancakes and hummed off-key to Bon Iver, his hand tracing lazy circles on my thigh as we swayed to vinyl on the porch. "This is it, Alex," he'd say, nuzzling my collarbone. "The real draft. Picking you every time." Tommy caught wind eventually, not the full truth but enough to side-eye me during holiday break, when I bailed on family charades for a work thing that was really Jax's bowl prep in Orlando. "Bro, you're glowing or some shit. Spill. Who's the girl?" I'd deflect with jokes about espresso highs, but guilt gnawed at the edges, a quiet betrayal of the brother who'd idolized me once. now chasing his own dreams in my shadow. Mom, ever the intuitive, cornered me in the kitchen amid pie crust crumbs, her flour-dusted hands on my arms. Alexander, whoever it is, they're changing you. For the better, I hope. Just don't hide from us. I hugged her tight, inhaling the vanilla warmth of home, and whispered, I won't, Mom, promise. But promises were slippery as river stones, and as the orange bowl loomed, the pressure cooker hissed. The betrayal hit on New Year's Eve, not with fanfare but a quiet detonation in my inbox. I'd flown down to Miami on a red-eye, checking into a nondescript motel off the strip to avoid the team hotel swarm, when Jax's text pinged, meet at the pier 9 p.m. Wear that hoodie. Miss it. The beach was a velvet ribbon under a canopy of stars, waves sighing against the sand as fireworks bloomed distant over the bay. He was there, silhouetted against the surf, but something was off. The slump in his shoulders, the way he wouldn't meet my eyes when I pulled him close. Alex, sit. We gotta talk. My stomach plummeted. The ocean's roar suddenly too loud. He paced the damp sand, words tumbling like an interception return. The leak, a blurry photo from the lake. Us, hands linked, faces blurred but unmistakable. Tipped off to a sleazy blogger by an anonymous source. His agent had gone nuclear, locking down damage control. You're this close to the first round, kid. One whiff of scandal, and you're backup fodder in Canada. I waited for the anger, the accusation, but it was denial that gutted me. His voice cracking on, it wasn't me, I swear. Even as Becca's face flashed in my mind, her shield, speech a prelude to this. Who then? Your dad? The team. He shook his head, tears carving tracks through the salt on his cheeks. Doesn't matter. What matters is, they want me to deny it. Publicly. Say it's a hoax, deepfake bullshit. Date Becca for real this time, till the draft settles. The words landed like a blindside hit, knocking the wind from me. Deny us? After everything, the cabin, the promises. He dropped to his knees in the surf, grabbing my hands, the water icy around our calves. I'm fighting it, Alex. But if I don't, God, if I lose you to this. I yanked away, the sting of rejection blooming hot. You think this is about losing me? It's about you choosing the lie over the truth. Over us. I stormed up the beach, fireworks mocking my retreat, his pleas chasing like echoes. Wait, please, don't. The next days blurred in a haze of regret and rage. I holed up in the motel, phone silenced, binging old games on muted TV. Irony twisting like a knife as Jax's highlights looped, his arm a cannon, his smile a mask. Tommy blew up my line. Frantic. Alex? What the hell? You ghosted the game? Jax is wrecked. Asked about you every 5 minutes. I didn't respond. Couldn't. Not when the news broke midweek. Oppressor in a sterile hotel ballroom. Jax at the podium in a crisp button-down. Becca at his side like a trophy. The rumors? Fake news, he said, voice steady as steel. Her hand on his arm a prop in the theater. Becca and we're exploring things. Real things. The room erupted in flashes, questions flying like shrapnel, and I clicked off the stream, curling into myself as sobs racked the cheap mattress. Betrayal wasn't the photo. It was the performance, the erasure of my touch from his narrative, leaving me as collateral in his climb. But heartbreak has a half-life, and mine ticked down in the humid Florida nights, pierced by a knock at dawn on game day. Tommy stood there, duffel slung over his shoulder, face etched with worry lines too old for 19. Get up, dumbass. We're fixing this. He dragged me to the stadium, weaving through security with a player's pass, until we hit the visitor's tunnel, the air thick with liniment and last-minute prayers. Jax was there, taping his wrists in a corner, head bowed like a penitent. Our eyes locked, and the dam burst. He crossed the space in 3 strides, pulling me into a shadowed alcove, Tommy tactfully vanishing with a yell if you need backup. I lied, Jax whispered, forehead to mine, breath ragged. Not about us, about the denial. It's a stall. Agents buying time to spin it positive, but I'm coming out. After the win tonight. For real. His hands trembled on my waist, vulnerability raw as an open wound. I chose wrong that night. Chose fear. But you're my North Star, Alex. Can't play without you. The Orange Bowl was Armageddon under dome lights. State versus the SEC powerhouse. Every snap a referendum on redemption. I watched from a skybox perch, heart in my throat as Jax orchestrated symphonies. Deep posts that split secondaries, scrambles that turned losses into gains. Tommy rumbling for first downs like a freight train unchained. Down 10 in the fourth, the miracle unfolded. A strip sack recovered, a 70-yard house call, and with 0:07 on the clock, Jax's leg from 48 yards. Up, through the uprights as the stadium imploded. Victory secured. He was swarmed on the field, Gatorade showers and trophy lifts. But his eyes found me through the glass. A promise etched in exhaustion. Post-game, the press room was a circus, mics thrusting like spears. But Jax commandeered the podium, Becca notably absent. "One more thing before we celebrate," he said, voice carrying like a huddle call. The room hushed and he looked straight into the cameras, into me. "The photo? It's real. The guy in it? He's the best part of my life. I'm gay. Proudly. And if that costs me a snap, it's a price I'm paying with my eyes wide open." Gasps rippled. Flashes blinded. But he stood tall. The boy from the muddy lots, now a man claiming his truth. Chaos followed. Calls from sponsors, Dad's furious voicemails. But in the locker room aftermath, he found me, pulling me into the steam and cheers, kissing me fierce amid the whoops. "Worth every hit," he murmured. And in that embrace, betrayal transmuted to triumph. Our story no longer hidden but headline bold. Yet the aftershocks quaked on. The draft, a gauntlet of interviews where scouts probed with veiled barbs. Team fit? Distractions? Jax fielded them with steel, his stock dipping but not drowning. Landing a second-round nod to the Lions. Home, Detroit, a poetic loop. We moved into a loft in Corktown. The city's pulse our soundtrack. Tommy crashing Sundays for pasta and play breakdowns. Mom beaming at our unconventional but solid setup. But humanism isn't fairy dust. It's the slow stitch of scars. Dad Harlan showed up unannounced one spring afternoon, Bible in hand, face thunderous as he paced our exposed brick living room. "This perversion? It'll ruin him, boy. The league eats its own." Jax faced him down, voice steady. "It's love, Dad, realer than any championship. And it's mine." The old man left without a word, but months later, a card arrived. "Congrats on the rookie deal. No mention of us. A fragile olive branch." In quiet moments, doubts whispered mine. The fear that fame's glare might one day eclipse us. But we'd learned. Love isn't a highlight reel, but the grind between plays, the huddle where truths are called. On our first anniversary, atop the Renaissance Center with the river glittering below, Jax knelt. Not with a ring, but a locket etched with our lake coordinates. No scripts this time, just you and me, forever in bounds. I pulled him up, kissing him under the city's watchful eyes, and in that vow we found our endgame. Not glory, but grace. Rookie training camp hit like a monsoon, Jax vanishing into the Lions facility in Allen Park for dawn-to-dusk drills. Emerging sun-scorched and sore but alight with that quarterback fire. I'd shuttle him coffee runs between my shifts at the upgraded Brew Haven. Promoted to manager, a small victory in the domestic dance, and we'd collapse into our loft evenings, takeout containers littering the coffee table as he replayed film on the flat screen, narrating like a poet dissecting sonnets. "See that footwork? Clean as your pour on a latte." I'd massage the knots from his traps, inhaling the mix of turf and his cologne, and murmur, "Your poetry in motion, Harlan. Don't let the suits tell you different." Our life wove a tapestry of normalcy amid the neon. Farmers markets on Eastern Market Saturdays, where he'd haggle over heirloom tomatoes with a grin. Quiet drives to Belle Isle, picnics on the grass with the Detroit skyline as backdrop. His head in my lap as freighters horned on the straight. Tommy thrived too, redshirting his sophomore year to bulk up, crashing our place with tales of co-ed crushes and calculus woes. Oblivious at first to the undercurrents but warming quick when Jax looped him in on big bro secrets. "You're good for him, Alex," he'd say over video games. Controller paused mid-frag. "Keeps him from being a total meathead." Mom adopted Jax wholesale, knitting him scarves in navy blue, Lions colors, deer, for luck, and hosting Thanksgivings where she'd quiz him on recipes. Her laughter a balm to the fractures we'd mended. Even Dad Harlan thawed incrementally. A box of Texas barbecue spice rub for Christmas. A grunted "good game" text after Jax's first preseason start. It wasn't absolution but progress, humanity in halting steps, the kind that doesn't demand perfection. Yet conflict simmers in success's shadow, and ours brewed with the 2026 season opener against the Packers. Lambeau Field, a frozen cauldron where rivalries fester like old wounds. Jax started hot. 200 yards, 2 TDs in the first half. But the hits piled up, a sack that twisted him mid-air, leaving him gingerly favoring his throwing shoulder as halftime buzzed. I paced the press box, nails bitten to stubs, texting Tommy in the stands below. "Tell him to ice it, stubborn ass." The second half turned brutal, interceptions snowballing under the cheesehead jeers, and with 4 o'clock left, down 17-14, the Lions faced 4th and long at midfield. The call came, a deep shot to the sideline, high risk, all reward, and Jax dropped back, scanned, fired. Incomplete, the ball sailing inches wide into the end zone. The punt team's roar drowned the boos, but as he jogged off, helmet low, our eyes met through the glass. Defeat etched in the set of his jaw, a mirror to my own rising panic. Back in the locker room, the air was thick with recriminations. Coach barking adjustments, vets muttering about rookie jitters, and Jax slammed his locker, the clang echoing like judgment. I slipped in via family access, finding him on a bench, ice pack pressed to his shoulder, head bowed over taped ankles. "Hey, champ," I said soft, kneeling to meet his gaze. "It happens. First of many." But he shrugged me off, voice raw. "Doesn't feel like it, Alex. Dad's probably watching, tallying the LS already. And the blogs? Harlan's honeymoon over boyfriend curse." The word slashed, a remnant of the scandal's echo, and I recoiled, heat rising. "Curse? Is that what they say? Or what you think?" He winced, reaching for my hand, but the damage lingered, a hairline fracture in our armor. We flew home silent, the jet stream a metaphor for the distance creeping in. The slump deepened, weeks of lackluster outings. Turnovers in prime time, a benching threat that had agents circling like vultures. Jax withdrew, burying in film rooms till midnight, snapping at my check-ins with a curt, "I'm fine. Focus on your world." Mine cracked too. A viral tweet storm dubbing me Yoko Ono in yoga pants. Fans heckling outside the coffee shop, egging my car with "Trade the QB, keep the drama." Isolation set in, our loft a echo chamber of unspoken fears. Intimacy reduced to perfunctory touches that left us both hollow. Tommy tried bridging, dragging us to a Pistons game where the arena's roar drowned doubts. But even there, Jax's mind wandered to playbooks, his knee bouncing like a live wire. "He's scared, Alex," Tommy confided post-tip-off, nursing a foam finger, "of losing it all, including you." The climax crested in Chicago, Week 8 against the Bears. Soldier Field's winds whipping off Lake Michigan like accusations. Jax was electric from snap one. Scrambles that shed defenders, lasers threading double coverage. But midway through the third, disaster struck. A blitz unblocked, his arm cranked backward in a sack that echoed with a sick pop. The trainer carted him off, shoulder dislocated. The stadium's gasp syncing with my own as I bolted from the box to the tunnel. Doctors swarmed, popping it back with a grimace, but the verdict landed like a flag on the field. Season over, surgery pending, draft darling to injured list in one vicious twist. In the training room, amid beeps and antiseptic sting, he broke. Not with tears, but a laugh bitter and barking. "Karma, right? For hiding, for hurting you. Universe says, sit your ass down, Harlan." I held him through the morphine haze, his good hand clutching mine like a lifeline, but fury bubbled beneath my calm. This isn't punishment, Jax. This football vicious, unfair. But if you think it's about us. He cut me off, eyes clearing with pain's edge. It is. That presser? I half meant the denial. Not because I don't love you, God. I do. But because I was terrified. Of this. The fragility. Confession spilled then, raw as exposed bone. The leaked photo? Becca? Yes. Tipped in a jealous haze after Jax shut down her real advances. But he'd covered for her. Silencing the agent to protect a teammate's sister. Burying the truth to shield everyone but me. I betrayed you twice. Once with the lie, once by not fighting harder. And now? I'm paying. But you're collateral again. The room spun, betrayal's ghost resurrected. But in its wake, clarity. Love wasn't blind trust, but choosing forgiveness amid the fractures. Recovery was a marathon. Jax's arm in a sling as we hunkered in the loft, Netflix marathons and physical therapy sessions marking days. I quit the shop's overtime, picking up freelance sports writing. Irony's gift, penning pieces on the cost of coming out that drew quiet acclaim. We talked, really talked, therapy sessions via Zoom, his vulnerability a bridge we crossed hand in hand. Dad Harlan flew up unbidden, not with sermons but silence at first, then a gruff, "You're tougher than I was, son." Over hospital cafeteria coffee, a nod to my presence that mended more than words. Tommy organized a rehab roast. Buddies piling in with bad puns and better beer, reminding Jax the team was family, not franchise. By spring, the sling came off and with it, the chains. Jax inked a restructured deal, no grudges from the front office, and we road-tripped the Great Lakes Circuit. Pictured Rocks Cliffs, Mackinaw's Fudge Trails, rediscovering joy in the unscripted. One dusk on Lake Superior's shore, agates glinting like stars at our feet. He turned to me, wind-tousled and whole. "Marry me, Alex? Not for headlines, but for the huddles, the quiet ones, the loud. All of them." Tears pricked as I yesed. Our kiss salt spray fierce. The horizon a canvas of second acts. The wedding was a quiet rebellion, shucking tradition for a summer solstice ceremony on Belle Isle's conservatory lawn. The Detroit River winking conspiratorially under a canopy of fairy lights strung like victory banners. No tuxes, khakis and button-downs. Jax in a lion's cap tilted rakish. Me with a pocket square embroidered with our lake coordinates. Tommy officiated. His vows a mishmash of locker room pep and heartfelt fumbles. "You two? You're the ultimate 2-minute drill. Clutch, unbreakable." Mom dabbed tears with a hanky. Dad Harlan in the front row, arm around his wife, a tentative smile cracking his weathered face. Becca even came, solo and contrite, slipping me a note post-ceremony. "Sorry doesn't cut it, but I am. Be happy." We danced to Thunder Road, Jax's chin on my shoulder. The city our chorus as guests, teammates, baristas, old high school ghosts, cheered with raised glasses. Life post-vows settled into a rhythm deeper than routine. Jax's comeback season a gritty grind, starting as backup but earning snaps with poise that silenced doubters. His first start a Monday night thriller where he orchestrated a game-winning drive, spiking the ball in the end zone with a glance skyward, to me in the family suite. I freelanced full-time now, my byline on pieces that peeled back the athlete's mask, exploring mental health in the macho maze, Jax's story a cornerstone without exploitation. We adopted a rescue mutt, Scout, who bounded through our mornings like enthusiasm incarnate, and hosted Sunday suppers where Tommy brought dates, Mom her pies, the table a mosaic of mended edges. But humanism thrives in tension, and ours tested in the off-season void, when Jax's shoulder twinged during a charity flag game, a phantom ache that swelled to sleepless nights. "What if it's back?" He'd whisper at 3 a.m., my arms his anchor. "What if I flame out and I'm just the guy who almost was?" I'd counter with truths honed in our trials. "You're the guy who is, was, will be. Careers end. Us? That's the legacy." Therapy helped, his sessions spilling into hours, unpacking the betrayal's residue. How the photo leak had forged not just scars but strength, teaching us preemptive honesty. Dad Harlan visited more, thawing over Tigers games at Comerica. His gruff, "Proud of you, son." landing like a long bomb touchdown. The pinnacle came mid-July, a league gala in New York where Jack's keynote for the Trevor Project, 500 suits and stars hanging on his words. Coming out wasn't brave. It was survival. Love saved me, not spotlights. Backstage, amid air kisses from celebs, he pulled me into a broom closet. Ironic echo of stadium trysts. Kissing me breathless. My MVP, he murmured. And in that cramped space, fame felt small. Our bond the true colossus. Years folded forward. Jax's ring with the Lions cemented. A Super Bowl run in '29 where he hoisted the Lombardi under confetti storms. Tommy as his fullback, a family trifecta. I authored a memoir, Sidelines to Center, sales modest but impact vast. Letters from kids in closets, echoing our lake whispers. We fostered teens, queers adrift like we'd been, building a home not of trophies but testimonies. Dad Harlan walked Jax down an aisle redux at Pride, rainbow flags waving like surrender. In the end, not tragic, but textured, we aged into the story's quiet coda. Gray threaded Jax's temples, my limp a companionable gait as we strolled woodward hand in hand. Scout long gone but his ghost in every tail-wag memory. One autumn eve, back at that Ann Arbor Stadium for Tommy's Hall of Fame nod. We sat in the empty stands, floodlights humming soft. Worth giving up on sports? He asked, lacing fingers with mine. I leaned in, breath mingling. Nah, worth finding you in them. The field stretched silent, a canvas of what-ifs redeemed. Our love the enduring play, dramatic, human, forever in bounds.